for the warm introduction and for having us today, once again, giving us this great opportunity to be here today. So good morning, everyone. Thank you all for joining us and welcome. My name is Nazanin, and I'm the Assistant Branch Manager at RBC Markham Meeting Place. We work very closely with Access Employment as we share the same vision and value and passion for newcomer communities, and we really value this partnership with Access Employment. So we also have Ria Ragbir, our banking advisor, on the line. We're going to hear from her very shortly. And the next slide, please. So we are very excited to be here today, and as Sonia mentioned, so we're going to talk about fraud and how we can protect yourself and have because this is a very important topic because by understanding what fraud looks like, so you will be better able to recognize a suspicious situation and stop the fraudster in their tricks or tracks, or or you also can react quickly if something does happen. My goal, and actually RBC's goal, is to make sure you are informed and protected. So now I'm going to talk about what we have for you today. So here's the agenda of the day. So we already heard from Sonia, and next I'm going to talk a little bit about RBC value and purpose, and Ria going to introduce RBC Markham Meeting Place where we work, and we're going to get into the main presentation. And as I said, it will be a lot to cover today about what is fraud, what is cyber fraud, like type of frauds, and how you can protect yourself. And we're gonna go through so many examples, like tips and advice regarding the fraud. So, and of course, at the end, we're going to get into the Q&A. As Sonia mentioned, please feel free to enter your questions in the chat box, or if you have any comment, feedback, or any experience that you would like to share, please let us know. All right, so let's get started. On the next slide. So you can skip that, so we can go right to the RBC purpose and value. So before we get into our main presentation, I want to cover a little bit about RBC's purpose and value for those who are not familiar with. So RBC purpose is helping clients thrive and communities prosper, and our vision is to be among the world's most trusted and successful financial institution. So RBC has around 80,000 employees, so we all are guided by one set of values. So first is client first. We always earn the right to be our client's first choice. So second is collaboration. We win as one RBC. We are partners and work together as one RBC to make sure our clients and our communities prosper. So the other one is accountability. So we take our ownership for personal and collective high performance, and we're really proud to work for an organization that cares so deeply about newcomers and our community. So diversity and inclusion, which is really important for us, and I think that's why we are so successful, because at RBC we embrace our differences, we include our differences, and that's what makes us such a strong organization. And the last but not the least is integrity. So we hold ourselves to the highest standards to build trust. So that was a little bit about RBC that I wanted to share with you. Now I would like to hand it over to Ria, our banking advisor, to introduce herself and introduce RBC Meeting Place. Thank you, Ria. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Naz. Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us for this wonderful collaboration with RBC Meeting Place and Access Employment. I'm really excited to be here. As you can see, my name is Ria. I am a banking advisor at RBC Meeting Place, and I'm excited to tell you more about our location. So on our next slide, you can our branch manager, Jeff Price, Nazanin, who you just heard from, and myself. We are a small team. However, we do share and we embrace the RBC purpose of giving back to the community and just being present in the community. And on our next slide, we have our extensive support team, varying from the different branches, the different departments, the different regions, and just be present. And I wanted to share a bit more on our community partners. We're so grateful to have partners like ACCESS Employment, who's our key partner throughout this journey. Together, we can reach and have those meaningful connections to make a greater impact. And since we opened our doors in early 2019, we were able to create awareness through our events and our community involvement. Here are just a few of the in-person ones that we've had in 2019 that we've hosted and facilitated. Fast forward a little bit to in 2020, we've taken our reach digitally, just like today, where we host all our events via WebEx. Here we've hosted our events, providing, just advice to the newcomer community, ranging from financial literacy events such as buying your first home in Canada and how and what is credit, the different investments that we have in Canada. And we also host beyond banking advice events, char recruiters advice, rock your LinkedIn profile, and your brand matters, just to name a few. Setting to provide the guidance and the resources that they need. And now I'll hand it back to Naz to get us started with this great event today.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Ria, for introducing RBC Meeting Place. So now we can start our main presentation. If you can go to the next slide, Sonia. So I want to start our presentation today by giving you some data. Like from January 2014 to December 2016, it is estimated that Canadians lost over 290 millions to the fraudsters. And in 2019, about 45,000 Canadians fell victim to fraud, like, losing more than 96 million, according to the Canadian Anti-Fraud Center. And these numbers shows that we, almost half of the Canadian have fallen victim to fraud. But don't worry about it. So I'm not here to scare you. So I know 290 millions is a shocking number, but that's why we're here today to talk about the fraud and how you can protect yourself so that you don't become a victim in the future. So now on the next slide, I'm going to talk about what is fraud and what is cyber fraud. So fraud essentially is when somebody tricks or deceives you for their own personal or financial gain. And cyber fraud is any crime that is committed with the use of computer or online data. And as a result, it can also happen on or through your mobile phone. And as I said, we have so many different type of frauds. It could take the form of stealing your identity, gaining access to your bank account, like through a stolen cards or password, or even by tricking you into giving away money or information to scammers. So like one of my clients recently received a call, and he was told that they are calling from police department telling him that his SIN number, his social insurance number is compromised, and as a result the scammer can access to his account. So he needs to withdraw all money, all cash sitting in his account, and transfer to the digital account through the ATM immediately. So please be aware of those kind of phone calls, and we're gonna talk about this more later on. So now on the next slide, so let's see how does fraud happens. So fraud can happen in any number of ways. As I said, like fraudsters can take your address and account information from your mail or even from your garbage bag, or steal your credit card and debit card. And they can also watch you over shoulder when you're entering your PIN number or password, or when you're doing your banking. So, or they can also get their hands on your debit cards or credit cards. And the most commonly way these days is that the scammers will tap into your fears and want to try and trick you into sharing confidential information, or like same as the examples that I just shared. So actually humans, over 90% of security breaches are the result of people making mistakes, getting pulled into a scam, or clicking on the suspicious link. On the next slide, so we're going to talk more about it. So, why we hear about big company data hacks, for example, we heard that one of the major banks' information, for example, was stolen or hacked and compromised. And as a result, those banks or companies are in the news. But it's actually the action that you take as an individual have the biggest impact on the security or your financial and personal information, right? So that's why it's really important that we be aware of the fraud. So on the next slide, you can see on the screens that there are many different types of fraud. So we are going to talk today about some of the most common types that would be password compromise, debit and credit card fraud, and also social engineering. The social engineering fraud has multiple types like phishing and spoofing, fake website, vishing and smishing. So I know that they do sound a little funny, like, but don't worry about it. If you're not familiar, what is, for example, wishing and smishing, or you're not familiar with this type of fraud, so we will go through each, and and you will understand what's going on around you. And Ria gonna talk about malware, identity thefts, and financial abuse today. All right, so let's just start with the password compromise on the next slide. So actually, one of the most common ways scammers get access to your information or into your online account or online banking is by guessing your password, because criminals can guess like very, very complicated password because they have those software to do that, right? So many of us, like to use simple password, for example, the word's password itself, or the digit like 1234, or something very easy for us to remember. But unfortunately, scammers know this, and by using those simple passwords is like handing out your house keys and address to the strangers and let them go to wherever they want. But so that's why it's important to pick a strong password. We need to be able to protect ourselves. And sometimes I actually see clients write their password on the piece of paper and carry it in their wallet. So please do not do that. Please do memorize your password. And something about the public Wi-Fi I wanted to quickly mention, because public Wi-Fi is very convenient to use, and but it always comes with a security risk. So criminals can actually get any information that you send while using the public Wi-Fi, such as password or online financial information. So so while you're using your public Wi-Fi, try not to log into your online banking, or like send the e-transfer money, or make a transfer, or make a bill like while you're using the public Wi-Fi. So now on the next slide, let's talk about like a credit and a debit card fraud. So debit and credit card fraud happens when someone steals your physical card or your card account information, or your personal identification number, we call it PIN, and use it, to make purchase in the store, online, or by phone, or to withdraw money from ATM using your card. So that's why it's important, if you feel that you lose your card, if you misplace it, just try to log into online banking or mobile banking and lock your card. So scammers can steal your card information, and there are a few ways that they can do it. Like, let's say by going through your garbage or mailbox to find your credit card statement or other banking information. So that's why we always recommend you to switch to e-statement instead of having paper statement. Or another way is by swiping your credit card through a device that copies the information stored on the black magnetic strip on the back of your card. Or, for example, they can also be asking you to use your credit card on a fake website. And this is very popular these days. So you might see so many like advertising through your like your social media or through the emails. Sometimes, they send some promotional sales or something else that is so tempting. And, you may think that this sales coming from a reputable company, a reputable store, and by such a good deal or anything like that, and you will use your credit card to make a purchase. It actually happened to me, to myself, a couple of years ago, not even that long time ago. One of my best friends sent me a link from a brand that it was one of my very favorite brands, and I liked that brand very much. And the sales was so good, like the time to time, I guess $400-$500 purse were about like only $40, and I wanted to obviously help myself, and I actually make that purchase, and my credit card information was compromised easily. So it's really easy to get caught on those like good news. So always remember that if something sounds too good to be true, most likely is fake. Either the website is fake, or even the products can be fake. So now let's talk about on the next slide about the social engineering fraud. So social engineering fraud on the next slide involves like emails, phone messages, and social media. If you can go to the next slide, Sonia, it would be great. Perfect. So, and how is like here's how it works. So basically, scammers will pose as an employee of a business or personal contact in order to prey on your emotion and create a sense of urgency. For example, they might pose as an employee of RBC or other banks and ask you to click on a link to change or confirm your password. So anything that pressuring you to do something, you always remember that it could be fraudulent activity and it can be a fraudulent request. And always remember that RBC or any other reputable institution never ask you to change your password or enter your information into any links. And so also on the next slide, we're going to talk more about like, the email scams. So, and then phishing and spoofing, which is part of the social engineering. So phishing scams takes advantage of your fears that scammers will play on your emotion and try to create a sense of urgency. And spoofing is another way of online scammers. So, like the scam will most often include a fake email address, website, or phone number that the scammer will use to trick you into releasing a sensitive or confidential information and how it works. So on the next slide, so social engineering scams can also take place over the phone or by text messages. Like some of you probably receive, those fraudulent phone calls from CRA or from a police department, just as an example of the just shared with you from one of my clients. Or sometimes you may receive a text message that's saying that you need to click urgently on this message. So this scams is known as a vishing and a smishing. And there are a few ways, there are several ways that they use to try to get those information from you. So one is to use the information they already have about you. They have your name, they have your address, phone number, bank details. And as I said already, so they get those information from anywhere, like from your social media, from your mailbox or garbage bag, or like that's how they have the kind of information from you. And that's how you think that since they already have your information, so they already know you, so it must be from a reputable caller, which is not true. So they also are able to do what else they can do is to hold your phone line. Like even if you are suspicious and you hang up the phone and try to call your bank back or try to call the Canada Revenue Agency back, for example, so they will be able to hold your previous call and redirect you back to themselves. So it's important to be mindful about this kind of fraud. So please be aware of that and give it some time before you call back your bank or call back the Canada Agency if you wish to, or use a different phone number. Okay, so please be aware of that they have those capabilities. And also, to make it all sound super real, so they can create an atmosphere that sounds authentic. Like you will likely hear a lot of background noise, so it sounds like a call center rather than a guy sitting in the basement. So they are able to do that as well. So, and on the next slide, I want to give you some of the examples of smishing, fraud. So as you can see on the screen, you might receive a text, for example, that's saying, "Dear customer, Bank of America," or it can be any bank's names on the text. So they need to verify your PIN number immediately to confirm you are the proper account holder. So, some accounts have been breached, so we urgently ask you to protect yourself by confirming your information here. Okay, always remember that's the keywords: immediately or urgently, that you don't give them enough time to think that and they want you to just click on the link and enter your information. So these are all the scams, and you can get also something from CRA, for example. CRA saying that CRA noticed the taxes return filed overdue, so click here your information on this link to prevent being prosecuted. Okay, so these are all the scams. And on the next slide, and also one more thing on this slide, so you actually can see, Sonia, if you can get back to the previous one, sorry. So this is a very common text message that you might receive, like it can be from any banks, or like let's say RBC alert. So your client card starting with 459 19 has been disabled. So please secure your account below. So this is also another example of like a fraud, because you might think that, okay, they already know your 4 digits of your card, so it has to be a reputable text, which is not true, because all of RBC's debit cards starts with 4519, and scammers know about this, and that's how they trick you by giving you the 4 digits on your card number. Okay, so before we get back to Ria, on the next slide, I want to also share some of the text, the smishing text message, text fraud that I receive it personally on a daily basis. So I wanted to share with you. As you can see, these texts are like, some of them, they already have my name. For example, you say, hey Nazanin, we attempt to deliver your item, but there is a missing import charge, so follow this instructions, sorry. And they already know my name, they already have my phone number, and I do lots of online purchases, so I may think that, okay, so this is a reputable text, which is not true. Or for example, from Costco, I receive so many texts from Costco. I'm a Costco client, and I do have the rewards cards at Costco, and but I know that these are all examples as like a scams. So now I would like to hand it over to Ria to talk more about the malware and identity thefts and financial abuse fraud. Hey Ria, over to you. Said is really common these days, like so, and also like they try to tricks on your fear, or sometimes they try to behave as an employee of the bank, or they can also hold your phone. There are so many kind of frauds happening these days. And another kind of fraud is that it might be you might receive a text, for example, hey, it's a beautiful weekend coming up, so do you want to go out? Like, Sophie gave me your number, check out my profile here. So they try to actually they get the like one of your best friend's name, for example, your friend's name from your social media list, and that's how you might think that, okay, they already know your friends, and they might be a reputable person, and they send you a text, and with the link that is the link that you're not supposed to click on, that because that's how they get all of your personal information from your phone. All right, so I guess Ria is back.
Yes, I'm here. Thank you, Naz. Thank you for covering all those great examples. I know we all can say we get those text messages on a daily basis, similar to you. So thank you for sharing those. I'll pick up where you left off on my slide. Yeah, we'll start with the social media. Thank you so much. So with, scammers are really sneaky, and they're very creative. They target anyone from youngsters to retirees. They even target businesses as well. No one is really immune to fraud. And Naz mentioned about the celebrity one as well, being compromised. I would like to pick up where she left off and share some more examples of fraud and a few more tactics and some pretty commonly used fraud tactics as well. So let's get started with social media. And I'll be honest, it's really a favorite pastime for many of us, including myself. Facebook and Twitter, Instagram, and many others, they've become more and more popular, but it's considered a home office for criminals, really. Their main objective is to make us give up our confidential information that they need to do their job. And they basically manipulate us into giving up that information. So on this slide, as you can see, we've all seen these fun and cool quizzes where, they have these getting to know you better questions. But in bright red, as you can see, stop giving your personal information to guess your passwords and your security questions, because yes, these questions are personal verification questions that banks, different organizations, they use for you to trigger your memory to remember your password. So these are just simple questions. However, the fraudsters, they use these to create the quizzes. So they seem like fun quizzes, especially if your friends are taking them too. But these, they really tell scammers a lot about you all at once. And by participating or even commenting or sharing these quizzes on social media, you're telling them that first, you're an active user and you could be targeted for other games that are now going to be populated on your newsfeed. Also, if you give the information for your birthday, your kids' names, your first pet, and so on, they're now armed with all this personal information about you. And if you think about it this way, they've actually cheated on the quiz. They have all the answers now, and now they're able to ace the quiz by answering your security questions and open accounts, even apply for loans or even access your savings. Basically, when you answer the quiz on social media, scammers can look up your profile and collect this data that you've actually made public now. So I guess a pro tip that I would like to give you is only connect with people that you know. If you get requests from someone that you don't have mutual friends with, you could be opening up your information, your post, and your network to potential criminals. So I wanted to share a social media scam on Facebook that happened to one of my really good friends. He was scammed $1,400. He was contacted by someone who was selling Raptors tickets during the playoffs in 2019. And he's a really, really diehard Raptors fan, and anyone can tell this by his profile and all his posts. So naturally, the scammer identified him as a good target and fair game. So he came to me after the transaction took place, and I identified quickly as a fraudulent transaction. So it was really heightened in 2019, especially during the playoffs. So we've seen many of these at the bank as well. So needless to say, he's now more aware and he's able to recognize these scams, at first point of contact. And we're not even allowed to talk about this. So he's quite embarrassed about it. So we're not allowed to talk about it anymore. And I wanted to move on to another scam on our next slide. It's called malware. Malware is a catchy term for any type of malicious software designed to harm or exploit any programmable device, service, or network. So cyber criminals typically use it to extract your data that they can leverage over victims and for their financial gain. So it's used in combination with social engineering scams like the phishing and spoofing that Naz discussed. It's designed to creep up and really embed itself onto your computer and create just chaos on your computer. It corrupts your files, it messes with your applications, it spies on your activity, and it also copies your data. If your device is infected with malware, it would decrease your computer speed, so just be mindful of that. You might be missing security software because they've deleted it, and your computer may crash or freeze more regularly than normal. Some common malware includes viruses, worms, Trojan viruses, spyware, adware, and ransomware. And I wanted to move on to another popular one on my next slide. It's popular to us as bankers, as Naz can vouch for this as well, but it's one of our oldest and widely known scams present. Scammers are always on the lookout to collect or reproduce your personal information to commit fraud. So thieves can make purchases using your account, they can obtain your passport, they can receive your government benefits, they can apply for loans and much more. They can really, really turn your life upside down. Fraudsters use techniques that range from unsophisticated to elaborate techniques. Offline, they can go through your trash bins and steal your mail as well. Online, they can use spyware, the viruses, as well as hacking and the phishing. So they can look for your credit card information, your bank account details, which would include your full name, anything with your signature, anything with your date of birth, your social insurance number, your full address, your mother's maiden name, online username and passwords if you've written them down, and just toss them out, driver's license, your passport number even. So some examples of identity theft that we've seen is stolen checks is one of the popular ones, ATM card, fraudulent change of address, the misuse of your social insurance number, the misuse of your passport, Even they can misuse your phone service, and you can have like a huge phone bill. They can misuse your driver's license information, false civil and criminal judgments as well. So they can get this information, like I mentioned, anywhere, one including your mailbox, by email, even over the phone, from statements that you've thrown out in the trash, or even your old computer hard drive. So you want to really clear out that hard drive before you donate it or resell it, or whatever you would like to do with it. So I wanted to give you a few tips to protect yourself. Never give out your personal information over the phone, via text message, email, or internet. Avoid public computers or Wi-Fi hotspots, such as the coffee shops, to access your personal information. They really put you at risk when you do so. Create strong and unique passwords for each of your online accounts. Password protect your device and your Wi-Fi network. Use a secure and reputable payment service when buying online, and look for a URL starting with the HTTPS and with that closed padlock symbol, because you want to be mindful of that. You want to make sure that padlock symbol is there and it's a reputable and it's not a fake website, because they're really, they're very creative, like I said, and they create the websites to really mirror the authentic website. Always shield your PIN when using your card. If you hand over your card to a cashier, never lose sight of it, because you really don't want for them to copy it or do anything like that. Shred and destroy documents with personal information. So those are some pro tips that I wanted to give you to protect yourself from identity theft. So I'll move on to one of the other scams that we've seen in the bank called financial abuse. This one might be new to some of you, or you probably have never heard of it, but it does happen, and it's something that we see on a regular basis at the bank. Financial abuse is when your money or property is misused, most often by someone you trust, and seniors tend to face a greater risk of this. For example, a client's pressure to lend money or possessions to a neighbor. A grandchild uses a grandparent, a grandchild or a child uses a grandparent credit card or debit card without their permission. A caregiver cashes a senior check without their permission. So again, the key feature of this is without their permission, and that's the form of financial abuse. A family member pressures a client to make or change a will, to create a power of attorney, or to sign legal documents that they don't actually fully understand. I wanted to provide some red flags to look for. So it's important to spot financial abuse. An increase or frequency and size of withdrawals at the terminals at an unusual place is typically a sign of financial abuse. Multiple requests for replacement client cards, or multiple requests for check orders as well. Unexplained changes in behavior, such as closing an account or automatically just all of a sudden liquidating all their funds. Clients may provide cues such as, they're feeling pressured to give away money or purchase items that they don't even need, lending money without even being paid back for it. They're feeling coerced into changing their will or signing legal documents, again, that they don't fully understand. So with financial abuse, they would typically start with buying something small, providing they have full access to the account with a power of attorney document. So they would start by buying something small for themselves, and then gradually over time, it would turn into missing money from their account or credit being applied in their name. Sometimes it can go unnoticed or even harder to detect because they've changed the mailing address. So the elderly doesn't get their bills or statements in the mail anymore. So which is why we recommend this to everyone and all our clients, and even everyone on the call today, to sign up for online banking. It's a good tool for your financial protection. It lets you see all your transactions, your lines of credit, your investments, your mortgages, so you can spot anything out of the ordinary right away, which is key. And
I wanted to move on my next slide for debit and credit cards and how to protect yourself with those. Skimming is the act of obtaining information from the magnetic strip of the debit or credit card. While, chip and pin technology, which is great, it does help to reduce the instances of skimming for debit cards and credit card, but it is still possible to skim them. So how does this work? The data is often obtained from a card reader device when the card is swiped. The PIN is often obtained separately, and then the counterfeit card is produced and then used by the fraudsters. So first they would copy your card, and then they would obtain your PIN, and then they would produce a card, and then they'll be able to go to town with it. So some advice to clients that we typically give is to tap or insert the card in the point of sale machine instead of swiping, because like I mentioned, swiping is where they copy it. But if you insert the card or even use the tap feature, that will help a little bit. Not to use ATM that looks like it's been tampered with. And typically, I do recall this many years ago that, a machine, that blinking part of the machine where you insert your card, that part was actually, they had a cover over that. So that actually had the copying device on there. And this happened a few years ago. I was about to use an ATM machine downtown, and I was really, I just happened to pull on it, and I prevented myself and my card from being copied at that time. So just pull on that little device where it's blinking and where you insert the card at the ATM machines, especially if you're not using your own bank's ATM. You want to be mindful of those too. Always shield the keypad when you enter your PIN number at the ATM or the point of sale terminal. I recently learned this term. It's called shoulder surfing. It's when the person behind you watches over your shoulder to steal, obviously, your PIN number. So there's an actual term for it. So just shield it with your other hand just to make sure you're covering that when you do enter the numbers. Like I said, fraudsters can be really smart and very creative to the point where they have to be so good at their job that they're on the clock 24/7, but you can outsmart them. It is in your control by doing just a few simple things to keep in mind and to keep your information and your finances safe. So I've talked about a few scams, but on the next few slides, I wanted to give a few recommendations on how to protect yourself. I strongly recommend using the Apple Wallet or the RBC Wallet for RBC clients. Both apps, it does save your debit card and your credit card on the app. I myself, I like to grab my phone and keys, knowing that my app is on my phone on there. And I do have that added layer protection on my iPhone where I have to use the face recognition for it. Another recommendation is if you have to use your credit card with the large purchase, I mentioned it already, but just cover the terminal with your hand. Naz mentioned the lock your card feature earlier. It's an innovative tool from RBC, which lets you lock the card from your mobile device if you've happened to replace it. If you feel that you've lost it and you can't find it, you can definitely lock it and unlock it. I've used this feature before myself. I think the card had fell on the couch or something, and it fell in between, and I thought I lost it. And then I went looking for it, and I couldn't find it. And then I locked it on my mobile app. And then the next day I was able to unlock it and use my card again. So it's a great feature. You can check if your bank offers that. And on my next slide, I wanted to cover a few things on how to protect yourself online. So when it comes to doing anything online, there are always ways to protect your information and your money, whether it's your online banking, a government site, or even your Netflix account. It's a great idea to create passwords that are complicated. I'm sure many of you have seen where they ask you if you want to use their password or you want to create your own. It's so easy to just create our own, but you may want to attempt to use their password because those are, configured with an algorithm and they're very hard to crack. So maybe some passwords you can do like a song lyric, and you have the song in your head, and then the password is the remainder of the lyric. You just want to be really creative with your passwords to the point where no one can actually guess it. And again, it has to be unique. When you're using your banking online, make sure you always log off when you're done, and especially if you're using that coffee shop for your online banking, make sure you log off immediately. Use a trusted computer when logging on to your online banking. If it's public, never use that computer to change your password, and clear your cache when finished on your online banking on that public computer. Keep your software updated. Software companies, they routinely improve the security of their software, and they take steps to fix security issues. So always be sure that you're using the latest software on your computer or your mobile phone. I know Apple released a new software that we had to update our phones for this particular reason. Fraudsters, they create accounts on legitimate online sites I mentioned, and they advertise to sell items at a very, very low price. We've all seen those Ray-Ban glasses for 20 bucks. But they're not a reputable site, and Ray-Ban will never sell their glasses for $20. Purchases, we receive items, or you receive poor quality or bad imitation of what you really expect. So just a few things to keep in mind. Stop and think, trust your gut. If you receive something out of the blue, if you've never received an email or a text message like this before, just be skeptical. If it's too good to be true, it's likely a phishing scam. Keep in mind, I said, fraudsters, they do prey on your fears, your anxiety, your curiosity, and avoid getting lured in. And I'll give you an example, similar to those text messages that Naz was showing. I received one a few months ago, and it was at the time when I have to receive my check in the mail from Costco. So I got a text message saying that click on this link to see the amount that I'm going to get on my check that I know Costco have sent in the mail prior years. So I have the membership where you get that 2% back. So I was really anxious to see, because then it tells me how much I've spent at Costco for that whole year. So I was really curious to find out. And, I did pause and I was like, is this a new feature by Costco? I'm like, why are they sending a text message? And at that point, I didn't click on the link, and I quickly deleted it from my list of messages, just in the event one of my children accidentally click on it. So I deleted it immediately off my phone. So that's just an example, going back to those text messages, they do prey on your emotions. In my case, my curiosity, because I wanted to know that amount of the check. So, they're very, very sneaky. They're very, very smart, but, we can outsmart them by protecting ourselves. So keeping with that, on my next slide, how do we protect yourself on social media? There's nothing wrong with being active social media users. I know I am. I love my social media. You can still share those important updates, those stories, those photos with your network, but do so responsibly and safely. Be aware of what you've made public. Check your privacy settings. Don't accept any friend requests from strangers. Be careful when you check in or share your location. Review your tags. Don't share personal information online. Don't share anything you don't want your grandma to see online, if you think about it that way. Another way is to avoid clicking on those suspicious links by entering the information on websites that you're not familiar with. Again, back to my Costco link that I received, I don't click on that Costco link. Always stop and think, trust your gut. If you receive something out of the blue, just be mindful of that. And if you're ever in doubt, you can go to your bank and ask them, review your online banking, quickly check your account online and see if there's anything out of the ordinary. I also received something where they're telling me my Scotia bank is locked, and I had to click on this link to unlock my online banking, knowing fully well I don't actually bank with Scotia. So It's called a phishing scam. So they cast a really wide net and they want to see who they can catch. So it is called phishing. So just moving on to my last slide, we all play our part, but RBC is always there to help and keep you safe by protecting our clients and our community from fraud. It is one of our highest priority. We have a wide range of technologies to do so. We have 24/7 experts, that are there to detect and investigate fraud. And, just like today, by you attending events like ours that Naz and I have, where we share our knowledge to educate our clients, because it is better to know the fraud trends and tactics so you can better prepare yourself and spot the fraud before it happens. Keep in mind, it is a shared responsibility, so you play a big role in your own security. So being here is a great and a huge step. So thank you guys for attending. And now we want to actually take on your questions. So we'll move on to our questions piece now.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Ria, for sharing lots of great tips and advice, especially around the social media. And I'm so glad you brought up the Raptors ticket, because that's a great example of how we should not basically share any information, like any personal information with the strangers through our social media. So Ria and myself, we are both active on the social media, but just make sure that if you post something like a picture or anything, is not include your personal information, is not include, for example, your street number or your car plate number. So all of these steps that we shared, the small things that you can do, but it goes a long way in order to protect yourself. All right, so yes, so we're here now to answer your question. So please feel free to enter your question to the chat box, or if you have any experience yourself, if you've been a victim of fraud, we'd like to share. We would love to hear from you. You can just share your story as well in the chat. All right, so Sonia can go to the next slide, which is our question slide. Perfect. And also there is a link, cybersecurity at RBC. I shared that link through the chat. I highly recommend you to check it out. There's so many great information available there about like what's new, like how you protect yourself online, how RBC keeps you safe. There's so many great information, and there's so many examples about like the scam alerts or like fake website and online scams ads. If you just check it out, so they're all like there are examples also there. So I just shared that link with you through the chat. Okay, so please don't be shy about asking your question or sharing your experience. So I don't see any questions. So Ria, maybe we can just give them some tips about the online shopping as well. I'm a fan of online shopping and I do a lot, especially during the COVID time. So I do lots of online shopping. So, like online shopping is very, very convenient, but it shouldn't come at the expense of safety. Like I always, the first thing you wanna, like when you buy something online, check the security of the website you're visiting, as Ria mentioned. So there is a little like a padlock icon on the left hand side of the URL bar, and that confirms that the website you're visiting has an address that begins with HTTPS or www. But just make sure that there's a little padlock icon on the left hand side. So just check for it, and also read the reviews online before buying. Like read reviews of retailers so that you are thinking of buying from, to help check that they are actually legitimate and they're reputable and trustworthy business. So this is something that you can do. And again, so about the public Wi-Fi, make sure that you do not launch your online banking when using your public Wi-Fi.
Thanks, Naz. I wanted to share something quickly on, I think I mentioned it when I was talking, but the alerts, it actually happened last month with one of my clients. He set up alerts with his online banking and his credit card. He got a text message saying that his credit card is being used at Walmart online, and he was actually at work. And so he received a text message saying this. So at that point, he locked his card immediately because he knew it wasn't him. He didn't shop online at Walmart. And he worked with Visa and everything. So it all got sorted. So long story short, the prior weekend, he went biking in downtown Toronto, and he used where he rented one of those bikes, and you have to use your credit card to pay for it, to rent it. So that's the only place out of the ordinary that he used his credit card. So he was able to pinpoint, there was potentially a card reader on that device where you pay to rent the bike. So, like I said, you want to be mindful of these machines that you use in the open public. Even the ATM machines, you want to pull on that lighting up device to make sure it's not tampered with and it's not like taped on there. So if you can pull it out, that means it's not a good one. Try using another ATM machine. So the alerts feature is really, really good. You want to check with your bank to see if they offer that. RBC does offer it for our clients on the call today, but just check with your banks. It's a great feature. So anything that goes in and out of your account, you get a text message immediately. And especially since all our text messaging is free, it's a good feature to have. You don't have to worry about paying per text. So that's always great. I love that alerts feature on my accounts.
Great example, Ria. Thank you so much for bringing it up. And also, there are two features like alert and also lock your card. These two features are great. We are highly recommend to use it. So thank you, Ria. So I see that there are examples like there is a story that I would like to share with you from one of our attendees. So example of what I faced. So when I was new in the country, I was due to receive an international courier from FedEx, and scammers called me and saying me that the shipment is held as a customs, and if I don't pay as soon as possible, the duties, if I don't pay it as soon as possible, I will be committing a federal offense. Wow. So I contacted FedEx instead of paying. So there was no payments due, and my courier was delivering in the evening. So thank you so much for sharing this. This is a great example of what we just shared, because as we just shared, like the scammers try to, scare you, prey on your emotion, prey on your fears. And always remember that if something is a keyword is urgently or immediately or as soon as possible, most likely is a scam. So this is a great example. Thank you so much. All right, so let me see. We have a question here. How do banks protect customers from fraud? Example, like a sudden withdrawal of a large amount from an account. To the best of my knowledge, banks do not really verify user or customer if the user is making such a withdrawal before executing the transaction. So this is a very great example. I'm just going to address that, and Ria, you can add to it. So so as Ria just mentioned, so RBC, like all banks, so we are trying to protect our clients, right? But it's also is a shared responsibility that you also need to be aware of the fraud. But if something happened, like if there is a withdrawal, let's say your online banking information hacked or compromised, or your bank, like your account information compromised, or even like there you notice that there's a unauthorized activity or transaction on your credit card or your debit card. So what is your responsibility to report it as soon as possible and share that with your bank? Okay, so the banks will do the investigation, and they get back to you, and they reverse the money to you. But this is your responsibility to first protect your information as well as to report it. And that's why we always recommend our clients to check your online banking, get the habit of checking your credit history to see if there's any unauthorized activity, there's any inaccurate information, that if you notice it, you can report it, and the banks will follow up with you. They do their investigation, and they reverse the money to you. I hope that I answered your question. So Ria, feel free if you want to add to it.
Yes, Naz, I think you are right. It is a shared responsibility. It is in your best interest to report it immediately. If you're referring to in branch for any withdrawals as well, we do have practices in place for protecting our client's identity. You do, input your PIN. So if you're referring to online, then I'll tell you about an incident that happened with my husband and myself. We were driving, and actually our fraud team called us because there was a large transaction on my credit card. So like I mentioned, we do have a dedicated team working 24/7 to help spot these things, because they do monitor our spending. They monitor our anything out of the ordinary. So that we do our best to say, hey, well, you know, this is a large purchase Ria is making. Let me call her and find out if this is actually her. So we do things like that as well. But again, it is in your best interest to call immediately, which is why the alerts will come into play. Because if it's something like a large withdrawal, you get a text message instantly. And that in itself would alert you, and then you would be like, okay, well, that's not me. Let me call my bank immediately to investigate this. And then we do our investigation in the background, and then we're in touch with you the whole time to make sure it's resolved.
Perfect. Thank you, Ria. This is another great example why you need to use the sort of alert, right? And when you do it, you can do it through your online banking. You have the choice of setting up the receiving the alert through text message or email, both. And Sonia, if you can go to the next slide, is actually our customer service experience, the information. So you can also follow us on the Twitter, you can like us on the Facebook, and also there is a link that I already sent it through the chat. I highly recommend to check it out. And or like if you have any question about like a fraud, or if you want to report anything, so you can call our 1-800 number. Perfect. Okay, so there is another question, Ria. I'm not sure about like, what do you mean pull out the machine?
Not pull out the machine. That's a great question, but not pull it out, but to pull on it. So when you use the ATM machine, the part where you insert your card, it's usually highlighted, or it has like a blinking light. So you want to make sure that piece of the machine is not like a temporary one, or like a pretend one. In this case, they've embedded the copying device onto it. So meaning you want to make sure the machine's not tampered with. So you're just kind of wiggling on it to make sure it's not loose and it's actually part of the machine and it wasn't tampered with. So that's what I meant.
Okay, great. All right, so I see another question here. So how cooperative are banks in helping you recover your funds if you were really scammed? Again, this is like almost the same as the first question. This is a very, very great question. We always get it a lot. So basically, again, so banks are super cooperative in terms of like, supporting you is 100% guarantee for online securities. And again, if you feel anything happen, like any unauthorized activity or any withdrawal that hasn't been done by you, so you need to report it, and the banks will do the investigation, and then they're based on the investigation that they do, they reverse the money back to you. All right, perfect.
Thank you so much, Naz and Ria. This does bring us to the end of our presentation here, and you have Naz and Ria's contact information on the screen. If you are interested and have more questions, please feel free to add questions. Is there anything else you'd like to add before we end?
No, thank you so much again for all of you for attending today's webinar. I hope you found it valuable. And so thank you so much once again, Sonia, for having us today. And as just Sonia mentioned, please feel free to contact us regarding any question about maybe you have a personal situation that you would like to discuss with us, or you can call us regarding your credit card, your banking. Our email address is at the bottom, or you can scan the QR code and all of the information will pop. Thank you, Sonia.
Thank you so much, ladies. Have a great day, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Enjoy the rest of the day. Bye.